Hello and welcome to one of the first Unlimited videos we will be doing, at least for a little while. With the Unlimited Cup going, we want to be covering a few Unlimited decks for you guys, as that's definitely going to be the best way for you guys to have decks to use in this tournament. Well, tournament style deck. A lot of fun anyway. Unlimited's probably got some more interesting deck combinations, a lot more viability going on, and Daria Rune is currently sitting at the top of the tier list as far as Unlimited decks go, right up there with stuff like mid-range Shadow, and of course some decent Haven decks, but I did go with traditional Daria as it is one of my favourite decks to play. Always enjoyed playing Daria myself, and Zealot of Truth is the only real new addition to the deck. After all, it is a crazy value card, and just like Blade Mage, works exceedingly well with Enchanted Sword, so we're going to get into this and check it out. So first up, we are going up against Shadow, which as I mentioned is one of the other top tier decks in the current Unlimited meta, at least from the information currently available. I would expect to see a shift after this event, as usually these Grand Prix events do shift metas in Unlimited, even just slightly. Unlike, of course, rotation, where metas are usually defined well before a Grand Prix event. So we start off reasonably weak. It would have been nice to have a 1-drop card, but as far as the actual cards we have, they aren't too bad. I would have liked to have used the Wind Blast. Unfortunately, though, not being able to kill the 1-2, definitely not a favourable thing to do. And it actually worked in our favour a little bit, as they end up just killing off their own Lurching Corpse anyway. Plus, now we can take full advantage of draw. That's the only real downside of this deck, is if you don't kill your opponent, it's very easy to overdraw very quickly. That means by about turn 7 or 8, you can be down to your last 10 cards very, very easily. But at the same time, it's not all bad, as it does mean you have a lot of cards to utilise, and it can be done very, very quickly. Although Shadow can do a pretty good job of that themselves, both with a draw power and destruction, it does look like they're running some form of Atomy deck, at least based on what we're currently seeing. And Angelic Snipe is a nice pickup, killing the 2-1. And of course Glow with the return. Probably not the best card to return, but I felt like it was the best option since I can go for the double Enchanted Sword play, although I should have definitely went for the Fate's Hand first. But since I did want a Daria, I guess Fate's Hand probably wouldn't have been the best decision anyway. And now we're going to have an 8-8 and a 5-5 on board, while dealing 8 to our opponent, which is going to be pretty soul-crushing for them, honestly. Definitely not a situation you want to be in. And them going for the Lady Grey, not a big surprise. But that's not going to really be enough to take out the 8-8. So it's definitely going to be a tricky one. It's honestly no surprise that this game went the way it did. I mean, going up against an 8-6, taking 2 swings from it definitely hurts. So that is why our opponent did end up just straight up conceding to us, making for a reasonably quick game. And for the next matchup, we're up against Sword. Sword is still quite a good deck, especially more aggro-y variants in Unlimited. Seem to do a very nice job. So this actually isn't too bad a starting hand. We've got plenty of draw power. We are going, I believe, first, so that's definitely a nice advantage to have. And we ended up drawing a Chimera, so can't really go wrong with that. We do need to start taking the game though. A Magic Missile is going to be the first thing to get us a draw. And Commander Celia, actually a really good target for Kaleidoscopic Glow. It's going to draw us a card, and of course spell boost everything else in our hand. Along with the Insight top deck, could not ask for some better draws, although there are plenty of cards that would have worked well, Angelic Snipe being one, but this was probably the optimal draw. And now the Mysterian Knowledge. I was aiming for a Mysterian Missile. Unfortunately, Mysterian Circle ended up being the card we got. A little disappointed there. Now we have to deal with a Frontline Cavalier when we have an empty board. Not the funnest card to deal with, but definitely not impossible. We've got double Angelic Snipe, Chimera, and plenty of other cards to take full advantage of. So using the Angelic Snipes, they are going to get us a massive amount of spell boost. And of course a free Chimera as well. With a little bit of an Evo, we should be able to quite comfortably send the 4 damage to face. Leaving just 2 1/2s up. Not a good position for Sword to be in. Hope Strategist isn't a bad play. It's going to protect them fairly well. No surprise they went for one of their Evo points. This is where the game gets a little more interesting. We're running low on cards, we're not really hitting any card draw, and I've got to waste my whole turn 6 on just putting golems in my hand. Since there wasn't really any other option at that point. I mean, I could have taken out one of that ward and maybe killed the 4-2, but it seems like that would have been a huge waste of potential. But now that they've developed a very solid board, we've got to find a decent way of dealing with it, and throwing up a bunch of 3/3 ward golems is definitely the way to do it. And with this buff, we're going to have a very, very good card to hit face with. 7 damage out of the 16 health they have, it definitely doesn't leave them in a positive position. And being forced to deal with all of these wards, definitely not favourable. But at least they do have the Mars, and they also ended up getting a ward. So, they've put me in a very rough position now. I do have to deal with this ward. There's a few cards that can do it, it's just a matter of being able to draw them with Fate's Hand and still play Zealot of Truth. Fortunately, Magic Owl isn't it, but Glow definitely is. So, with a quick Glow, and another Zealot of Truth, quite comfortably able to deal 10 damage, which isn't a bad thing at all. So this deck definitely has its positives, Daria being one of them. I found that a lot of the games that I was winning were pretty easy to win in the early stages, that's kind of what you're aiming for. Getting pushed into the late game definitely puts you at a huge disadvantage, and aiming for as many early game cards as you can, usually beneficial. I actually also found that unless I already have something like Daria in my hand, throwing away owls is usually the best strategy if you're going first. If you're going second, on the other hand, owls are pretty indispensable, as that on turn 4 owl into basically any other 2-drop is pretty insane, especially if you have a potential decently boosted card like Blade Mage or Fate's Hand. You can really take full advantage of that, which is always great. But honestly, Daria being the star of the show for its massive amount of spell boost and draw power, and then Zealot of Truth, Blade Mage, Enchanted Sword for your real punishing face damage, which is just insane. So if you guys did enjoy this video, hit the like button and subscribe. You'll find the deck list in the description below. Until next time, see ya.